Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service of Now Creations. Just nice to be here with all of you this morning. Two things I want to mention. First of all, I invite all of you watching to view our open forum this evening. If you would simply go to our website and click on Study Groups, and then scroll down to Open Forum this evening, Sunday, from 6 to 7:30 p.m., Tony Nakina will be sharing his testimony with dialogue to follow. I cordially welcome all of you to attend. But especially before we begin, I want to call your attention to the email we sent out to you on Tuesday morning. We've been asking that you send your loving energy to our country. Our country is going through some rough times. I just want you to know how important it is for you to send your energy into the ethers to assist our growth and development. From a personal standpoint, I'm surprised at how much I personally have been just absolutely moved by doing this meditation myself and on several occasions with you. It's been very moving for me to realize my part in our country. And then secondly, I've also noticed how much kinder and more loving I am on a day-to-day basis, just doing things that I can do to bring oneness and well-being into our country. And I want you to know that just before I began this talk here today, that I've just completed my own meditation and want to encourage each one of you to do yours, to realize how important you are to the well-being of our country. And never, never, never doubt that oneness and well-being will be our pathway forward. Having said this, let me now move into our Sunday teaching. Having completed the two trilogies of teachings on You Are Ascending and Here I Am in a Body, we have now, in a sense, presented two series of teachings that can and should be reviewed at least maybe every 6 to 7 months to keep us aligned. Both of them are very important. You are ascending, and we are here in a body. Over the past week, several of you have made comments that you're ready for more good stuff, especially now that many of you have become familiar with the 5th, 6th, and 7th layers of thought in the course for Mastering Alchemy. With this higher level of thought in mind, 2 of you made comments this week that have been very exciting and expansive. One of you mentioned that you'd like to be stretched, that you are so appreciative of the expansion in your thinking. And another one said, my mind wants to know what it doesn't know. My mind wants to know what it doesn't know. That's pretty exciting and very, very expanding. So with these 2 comments in mind, what I'd like to suggest to you today is that we're going to be doing something exactly in this direction, to expand your mind, to turn on to something that is quite interesting. I'm going to suggest that we move beyond dependency, to move beyond dependency to approaching a way of living that is the title of this month's teaching, Independency. Independency. Now, before I begin, let me truly mention that independency only happens in the higher realms of thought, of which you are quite capable. Just need to say this again. Independency happens in the higher realms of thought, of which you are quite capable now. However, it will be very easy to miss the point if simply viewed from a limited third-dimensional human perspective. So please, give this teaching much consideration. Listen to it several times especially see how it fits into your past life and how it could lead you into higher realms of thought. And most of all, how it will provide for you a greater love for everyone and for everything. Let's begin. Independency. For quite some time, especially over the past years, I've witnessed the reality of codependency. Most of you are certainly acquainted with the term. Codependency usually means the excessive emotional or psychological reliance on another person, typically by someone who requires support on account of an illness or an addiction. One becomes codependent excessively on another. Now, while we recognize codependency in others, where there is an excessive reliance on another, most of us would probably say that, well, we are not codependent, that we do not excessively rely on others for our well-being. Or do we? Or do we? If not excessively, if not consciously, do we really, actually rely on others for our well-being? I've thought about this notion of dependency for quite some time, and now want to share these thoughts with you. First, I will give a background to these dependent situations in which all of us are involved. And then share two teachings with you, one from Stoic philosophy and the other from A Course in Miracles, which will give us a very clear understanding of dependency. And then conclude with a clear view of independency, which holds the greater love for everyone. First, some background. We seldom think about our dependencies in life because they are pretty much normal, the way we grow up, until something happens. Let me explain. Most of us grow up in families, we participate in society, and we work for companies. We seldom ever think that such groupings as families, society, and companies are forms of dependency until something happens. Families, societies, and companies are the normal constituents of life. They are what we have become accustomed to until something happens. Families, including spousal, parental, and extended family relationships, the benefits of society for education, safety, and social institutions, and the importance of the workplace, our jobs, with which we earn a livelihood. This is how we have grown up. We hardly ever think of them as codependencies until something happens. But as you examine these further, you will begin to see how dependent upon them we are. As you examine them further, you'll begin to see how dependent upon them that we are. So dependent upon relationships, certainly within families until something happens. So dependent on social institutions until something happens. So dependent on companies and businesses until something happened. Until they are threatened. Let me be clear now. We have had such a clear awakening of the fragility of social stability in the recent events of the attack on the Capitol and on the pandemic, which has brought so much difficulty to the job market and food supplies for many. And the family, especially relationships. Oftentimes there is as much turmoil as there is love. Abusive parents, sibling rivalries, spousal discord, family squabbles, people not talking with each other for years. We just don't realize how dependent we are upon someone or something until it is threatened, or worse, cease to exist. From social services to family breakups, whether it be through divorce or through death, or simply children leaving the nest, we don't realize how dependent we are on certain things. Now, realizing how dependent we are on others in institutions, let me now address the philosophy of Stoicism and then clearly address some issues of dependency that really show up within it. Now, you might recall that the Stoic philosophy occurred during early Roman and Greek times and had quite an influence at that time. But they also have quite an influence now because of the strength that it encourages in people to deal with situations in their lives. Now, we don't have to go into the background of Stoicism, and we don't simply have to look at a Stoic person as someone who is able to simply deal with what's going on. But there are three teachings of Stoicism that are very relevant today and I think very helpful for us. They challenge us to be more independent. In essence, these three particular teachings of Stoicism, all three are very important. The first one is important, but the last two are really important. They all teach about dependencies we sometimes think we don't have. The first Stoic teaching on dependency. Do not suppose that others will tell you the best thing for you, because they don't really know who you are. And oftentimes they will simply tell you things for their own best interest, not yours. Interesting. First teaching, don't suppose that others will tell you the best thing for you because they don't know you. And oftentimes, they simply tell you the best things for them and not necessarily for you. We all know the truth of this statement, but yet again and again, we allow others to unduly influence us because we do not have confidence in our own truth. For years, we have been dependent on others, on their opinions, and for their approval. You just have to take a look at your life. I think if you do, perhaps enough said. But it's the second and the third teachings that are most poignant for us today. The second point, realize that those on whom you depend might someday not be there. Just realize that the people you might depend on might someday not be there. How very true this is. Someday, that family member, those social relationships, the workplace, they simply may not be there either through moving away, through death, or through family separations. Things can and do change, often dramatically, and sometime someone you've depended on may just not be there anymore. Yet it's the third point of Stoicism that is the most important. In its simplest language, dependency fosters more dependency. Dependency fosters more dependency. More and more will you be dependent, so that when something occurs, you oftentimes have a very difficult time dealing with it because you've become so dependent. Dependency fosters dependency. I believe that these Stoic teachings are accurate. I think they are compelling and relevant. And yet, how dependent we continue to be, often unknowingly, often unconsciously. We need help, and sometimes a lot of help. Fortunately, such help is readily available for us in A Course of Miracles, especially in its teaching on special relationships. Please listen closely. Well, most of us like to feel special, me too. The Course offers us the following sober thinking. The Course defines a special relationship as anything you put before your relationship to God. Let me just repeat this. The Course defines a special relationship as anything you put before your relationship to God. This is quite a sobering teaching. It has a lot of salient points. The first one is that we still do indulge in special relationships, especially in families, but also in society and businesses. Now, this is such an important teaching for us. The Course doesn't mean to disregard our important relationships, but it does state clearly, if you put them first, then you will not have enough of the God presence to deal with their all too frequent collapse. Nothing wrong with familial, social, and organizational relationships, but if you put them first, if you become too dependent on them, then you will not have enough of the God presence to deal with their all too frequent collapse. Now, of course, and this is the most beautiful thing, what the Course really wants to say is that the more you put your God Spirit first, the better all of your relationships will be. Yes, I'm going to repeat this. I could repeat it 1,000 times. The more you put your relationship to the God Spirit first, the better you show up in all of your relationships. It's truly putting the first thing first, your relationship with the divine, that enables you to show up the best in all of the other relationships without becoming dependent upon them. This is very, very high-level thinking. The Course clearly teaches that all other special relationships that we have a tendency to desperately try to hold on to are only temporary forms. You must come to see this. And of course, what the Course would then say to us is that you are the permanent identity. You, in your relationship to the divine, are the permanent identity that gives meaning and stability to all of the temporary forms. It is this letting go of that we're beginning to understand that helps us to see that we're still very dependent, and it's not easy. But I do think it's the truth, and we must recognize it. We need to move gently, caringly, and clearly from dependency to independency, because it's the way things are. Which brings me to the second point of the Course's teaching on special relationships. Actually, there are 2 points. The first one is that we are not our bodies. We are not social institutions, and we are not our companies. Surely, while each one of us have a body, while we are in the world, and we deal with all of these things, they can easily lead to a place of dependency, which results in disappointments that take a long time to get over. We need to be able to see that we are that eternal soul, and from that eternal soul, connected to the divine, we bring our love and our kindness to all of the temporary relationships with which we're involved. That second teaching, the Course clearly says, is to help us to recognize that we truly are a soul. And we must learn to center on the eternality of the soul. When you are working on the eternality of the soul, then you will view the temporary things differently. They will not disappoint you. You will give them a greater love. I share this teaching with you because I feel just more and more it's what we must learn to come to understand. Be the beauty of your soul. That's the eternal, putting first things first relationship. Allow other things to be seen so that we might become less dependent and give greater love through our inner light. Somewhere, sometime, somewhere, sometime, maybe today, you must begin to see yourself as an eternal soul, consciously creating here in the material realms, but not dependent on them. This is what I mean by independency. Consciously creating from our eternal soulness so that we are not dependent, but independently bringing forth more from our creative center. Again, let me happily say that the more we are independent through our connection to our source energy, the greater will be the love we have to all of our relationships. But without the limiting notion of dependency. Do you not see this? Is this not clear to you? Now, with all respect to Shakespeare, saying that 'tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all, or to Barbara Streisand, that people who need people are the luckiest people in the world. Well, the real truth is to have your own clear identity with the God Spirit so that you can fully love everyone and everything in temporary forms without allowing the temporary form to make you dependent on it and ultimately to forget who you are. The real truth is you must have a clear identity of who you are, one with the God Spirit, to love everyone and everything from that place so that you not be dependent on the form that makes you then forget who you really are. Okay, as I said, to understand this teaching, you must be in clearer soul awareness. If you are, you will be immensely freed. And most of all, you'll be becoming more loving than you've ever been. It's the truth. So in conclusion, I hope that you'll listen to this teaching several times. Yes, it will stretch you. Yes, it will expand you. But most of all, it will not leave you ultimately disappointed because you have truly become an independent soul filled with the Creator's love in all of the things that you love. This is how we are moving forward. With that in mind, let me now take you into meditation, and I hope this will be so helpful to you. Let us begin as we normally do by simply focusing on the breath within us and knowing that as we do so, that calmness very clearly now comes forward. Just allow the rhythm of your breathing just to settle you. Settle your body, settle your mind, and bring your soul to the fore. Please begin. Well, here you are. Here you are. And just notice yourself. You are quite conscious. You can easily say to yourself, well, here I am. This is me. Right now, right here, you are in your soul identity. Here I am. You're in the inner you. At this moment, right now, there's no world out there. There are no people around you. You're just you. Here, you are. This is your soul self. Two things become very important. The first one, in putting the first thing first, is your relationship to the God Spirit. Right here, right now, you, your soul self, clearly recognize your oneness with the divine. Is this not true? I mean, just right now, right here, you realize you're part of something much bigger than just your soul. Your soul is a participation in the God Spirit. Notice how right this feels. I am one with the God Spirit. Now this is very, very important. Would you notice how whole and complete you feel right now in your soul self? Whole and complete. Totally loving. Happy to love. This is the eternal you. Whole, complete, happy to love. This is independency. Now again, would you notice how good this feels and how right it feels? Right at this moment, you have put the first thing first. The second thing now, you as a soul have decided to create in your human life. Family, society, business. Would you please happily love them all? They're part of you. They're part of your creations. Love them all. Family. Oh, yes. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Partners, spouses, kids, extended family. Socially, what a wonderful country we have. How you have earned your right to be here. And businesses, how finances and professional services are very important. You know the teaching now. Love, love, every form that you have created. Just don't get caught in thinking that the forms are who you are. And on which you depend. I'll mention again, keep on loving your forms from the eternal beauty that you are. Just don't get lost.
Deep within, peace resides, faith abounds, and love abides. The light shines bright to love without, love within. I honor thee, I honor thee. Namaste.
This is a big teaching today. May you clearly see that independency enables you to be much more loving from your soul without the risk of disappointment. Namaste.